Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar by DataPlatformGeeks. My name is Rohit, and I will be your host for today. Today's session is on SQL Server Backup and Restore. And our today's speaker is Satya Ramesh, who's a technical consultant for SQLMaestros. And our today's moderator will be Chetna Roy. A lot of you already know about e-governance systems. A few quick words about e-governance systems and its popular brands. We have SQLMaestros, where we offer master classes. We recently concluded the master classes. I will speak about it a little later. We have the learning kits. We have the video courses. We have the unique learning called the hands-on labs. We have Peopleware India, where we offer a lot of training, corporate training, and we have our very own ERP product called the Expand SM ERP. So Chetna will be putting down these links a little later. We also have our very own community called DataPlatformGeeks, which is Asia's largest data analytics community. It was formerly known as SQL Server Geeks community, but we later on changed it to DataPlatformGeeks. Under DataPlatformGeeks, we do our annual summit, that is Data Platform Summit. It was also formerly known as SQL Server Geeks Annual Summit. We have concluded 4 years of the summit, and we have launched the 5th year of the summit, that is DPS 2019. The registrations have opened. Now we have DPS 2019 on the screen. You can see the theme and logo for DPS 2019. Our tagline says empowering data and AI transformation. We will have the regular 3 days of the summit on 22nd, 23rd, and 24th of August, and we will have the full day classroom trainings by the same experts on 19th, 20th, and 21st August. This will happen in Bangalore at Radisson Blu, which is a 5-star property. What you can see on your screen is the group photo that was taken at DPS 2018 at Radisson Blu. It was a keynote by the corporate vice president of the Azure Data Group from Microsoft Redmond, Rohan Kumar, and his entire team. You can see them on the stage raising their hands. Yes, Chetna will be putting down the links to these group photos. You can see them on Facebook, LinkedIn. And DPS 2019, like I mentioned, 3 days of the summit and 3 days of the pre-con. We will be having 7 tracks. We will be having 7 tracks, more than 100 sessions at the summit, and over 50 plus international speakers, world-renowned speakers will be participating in DPS 2019 to share their knowledge with you, the community. One of the main reasons why DPS 2019 is so popular among the community is because there is 100% learning and 0% marketing. And not to forget the experts that fly down from Microsoft Redmond and 16 other countries to teach at DPS 2019. You get to interact with each and every one of them personally and connect at a personal level, of course. So our official website is dps10.com. You can write to us with any query at contact@dps10.com. And if you wish to reach us directly, you can take down the number. Chetna has already put it down on our chat window, 9606482133. And you can reach out to our team member. So you can visit dps10.com, and this will be your home screen where you can book your seat right away. An important note, which you all should know, is that the pass price for DPS 2019 will increase in 3 days. Yes, on April, the 1st of every month, the DPS pass price increases. Hence, on April 1st, our price will be increasing. So today is the lowest price for the summit. So if you wish to join us in August later this year, you can book your seat right away. And if you're not sure about the participation, whether your company is participating, because usually companies sponsor for these such summits, you can click on would you like the DPS team to invite your company, and then give down your details, some of your details, and our team will reach out to your company and make sure you are part of DPS 2019 this time. So why should you really care? First of all, if you really wish to upskill and reskill and stay up to the mark, this is the place for you. And of course, the deep technical content that is delivered by the world's best trainers coming from 16 countries and Microsoft Redmond. These are some of the product makers that you are using in your day-to-day life. And yes, you get to network directly with them and make connections at a personal level. So I'm sure you do not want to miss that. And the summit will be happening at the world's best infrastructure at Radisson Blu. DPS involves the community. So what does that mean? We all our sessions that are delivered at DPS, all the 100 plus sessions that I was talking about, all of them are voted by the community. So we put up all the sessions that are given by speakers, and we put all of the sessions up for voting, and you get to choose what you want to attend or learn. Yes, highly curated content and disciplined execution. So next steps, evaluate Data Platform Summit. Our official website is dps10.com. You can visit that. And all our past conference sessions, the speakers, the material, everything is up for you to see. So you can decide whether DPS 2019 will be worth it for you. Another important detail is that we have announced 16 pre-cons already with the speakers. We have speakers traveling from 7 countries. The limited speakers that we have announced so far, we have them coming down from 7 countries, US, Australia, and whatnot. They will be delivering 16 pre-cons across 3 days. There will be more pre-cons coming up, but you can always look at those pre-cons if those interest you, if you want to learn from them, and speaker bios are also up there. You can book your seat right away. The DPG core team, we have Amit Bansal, the founder and president. We have Manohar Punna, the vice president, Avnish Panchal, Vijay Mishra, Vijay Reddy, Sandeep Bani, Prince Rastogi, Surbi Agarwal, Sakaram Shinde, and Devdutt Danath, who are our regional mentors throughout India. These are the eDominant teams across India in Kolkata and Bangalore. This was last year at DPS 2018. You can see the DPG core team and the eDominant team on the stage with Amit Bansal. So special thanks to Microsoft for helping us organize such events and constantly supporting us in all these years. So all of you are members of DPG community now. So you get, a lot of you are not aware that you get to access a lot of our free videos, past webinars that we keep posting up on our website and our YouTube channels. You get to watch all of them for free. And the new meetup model that we have started, you get to you can fill out the form that is on our website, DataPlatformGeeks.com, to be a regional mentor and mention that you wish to host a meetup in your company. We will get in touch with you and we can work out how we can host a meetup in your company. So that will also give you an opportunity to be a regional mentor for us. So if you have any questions beyond this webinar, you can join our groups, that is Facebook SQL Server group / the SQL Geeks, and our LinkedIn group, that is /group/6753546. Chetan will be putting down these links in the chat window. Yes, of course, today's webinar also will be recorded and be posted on our YouTube channel. So do not miss subscribing to our YouTube channel. That is youtube.com/SQL Server Geeks. And we also post a lot of new latest SQL videos by our team in youtube.com/SQLMaestros. So do not forget to subscribe and get the latest updates. So yes, let's get started with today's webinar. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A panel, and this speaker will be answering these questions at the end of the session. Over to you, Satya. You can take it forward from here.
Thank you, Rohit. Please confirm me. You're able to hear me?
Yes, Satya, we can hear you.
Yes. Let me share my screen once. So please confirm my screen as well. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, depending upon where you have joined from. So all of you also please confirm me whether you are able to hear me and you can see my screen. Please put up your response in chat window with either yes or no. If it is, it's fine. If it is no, someone from our team will take care of that. Fine, seems like everyone able to hear me and see the screen. Fine, let's get started with today's webinar. So it's kind of a backup and restore in SQL Server where we target more towards the developer kind of a crowd, where normally for administrators, this backup and restore is a day in and day out job. But today's topic is more concentrated towards why developers also needs to learn these things, because we developers do a lot of mistakes, and backups and taking backups and restores will help saving our jobs actually. So that's why we need to learn about backup and restore in SQL Server as well. So before going forward, let me ask you this small question. So how many of you have already done this backup and restore as part of your day-to-day job, please put up your response in chat window that what is your database size and how long how long it will take for you to take the database backup. So I'm waiting for your response. Please put up your response in chat window that what is the database size you have and how long it will take for you to back up your database. I'm talking about this full database backup, those who are already doing it. I'm seeing 50 GB size. It will take 15 minutes for Arkha Gupta, and 1 terabyte database, 4 hours full database backup. I'm considering that your servers are pretty big. If you can put up your servers also, that server configuration also, then it will be more understandable for everyone. Like, for example, if you have a 64 core machine and 128 GB of RAM, and then if you're taking 1 terabyte database of backup, then it is taking 4 hours time. Something like this will be very helpful. So there is one TB size is 17 terabytes and it is taking 4 hours. Okay, good. 2 terabyte database full backup takes 5 hours. So depending upon your server, so I'll stop this survey here. Please put up your server configuration also there so that we can understand more about how it is taking, like this for 16 virtual process and 32 GB of RAM, and your 1 terabyte database is taking 4 hours of time to take a full backup. It's good. These numbers will always help to understand that how long our databases are taking to back them up and what is our database strategy we should follow depending upon the size of our database and the available hardware configuration. That's why I asked for these kind of details. Fine, let's get started. So today's agenda will be like, we'll just cover up this full, what do you mean by full database backup and differential backup and log backup, and few things related to what is copy only database, and we'll also do restore our databases from the backup files, and we'll also learn about how to take database backups using T-SQL scripts, and I'll also show a basics about how to take database backup using graphical user interface as well. And after that, we'll just go ahead and see about how partition will help you to maintain your data, and how to take those file group backups so that you can restore only that particular file group whenever you have a large databases. And after that, a small script about how to get back deleted or truncated data from the log backup you have taken frequently. So that will help us developers, like we do frequently delete and update records, sometimes without where condition. So that's where these backups will really help us to get back our data. So these are the things that we are going to cover today, and a quick definitions about what do you mean by full backup and differential backup and log backup. There are few many backups like file backup, file group backup, copy only backup, and like these things are called as partial backups, which will help us to do piecemeal restore. So, but our most concentration more concentration, we're going to concentrate more on full backup, differential backup, and log backup today. So what are the definitions? A quick definitions will be look like this. So if you say I'm going to take a full database backup, that means you're taking a copy of your complete database and storing it somewhere else. So that is what do you mean by full database backup. You're taking complete copy of your database and storing it somewhere. Obviously, not where your database currently resides. That's where normally people do mistakes, right? So you take database backups and you store it in the same server. If that something happens to that particular server or some disaster happen, and you're losing your original data also, and you're losing your backup data also. That's why it's always better to store your physical database files and your database server, physical database files and backups files in different storage locations. And what do you mean by that? Different geographical locations will be even more better, because that's how disaster management will be done, right? So if one part of world something happens in one part of the world, then you always have a database backup stored in some other part of the world. That's where it's always recommended. That's what always recommended. So what do you mean by differential backup? So as we already discussed, few people have very large databases here. I have seen one response where someone put up this one like 17 terabytes of database. Someone named Bhanu, put up this one, like 17 terabytes of database. So it's not practical that you take this particular database backup every day. So all your server is just taking database backup other than doing any client load, client workload, anything else. So it's not practical that taking database backups of this big sizes every day. So that's what there should be some kind of a mechanism or some kind of a what you call some sort of technique where you take full backups once in a week or twice in a week or once in 2 weeks, like that. And after taking full database backup, you just take series of differential backups. What do you mean by differential backup? This particular differential backup file contains all the data since your last full backup. Consider that you have taken full database backup Sunday, and if you take differential backup on next Saturday, so that particular differential database backup file contains the data since Sunday. So that's what you mean by differential backup. So normally we cannot able to take this particular full backup every day, and we do not want to lose our data also. So that's where this kind of a strategy comes up. So you take full database backup on Sunday, and you take regular differential backups, which is containing the changes that happened since last full backup. So you're safer, you're on safer side now. So that's what the use of a differential backup. And what do you mean by log backup? I'll just show a small illustration about what SQL Server internally do and why do we need to take this log backup very frequently and why it is important to take log backup also. So this particular log backup file contains all the log data since last full backup. So these are the simple definitions about full database backup, differential backup, and log backup. I hope these definitions are clear. Please put up your response in chat window whether it is clear or not. Please put up yes if it is clear. Yes, I'm getting responses. Fine. So let's move ahead and see this particular small example where normally whenever you store data, obviously you're storing data in disk, right? So that's where the disk come from. SQL Server. So you can ask your questions using Q&A panel. At the end of the session, we can take all the questions. So use Q&A panel to post up your questions. Please don't put up your questions in chat window. Otherwise we'll miss out on questions. Please use Q&A panel. Okay, let's get back to this. So whenever you tell about SQL Server storing data, obviously you are storing data in disk. And we all know that whenever you create a database, SQL Server will by default create one data file and one log file. Unless you specify otherwise, you can also create multiple data files and log files. That is not our today's discussion. But otherwise, SQL Server will create one database file, that is MDF file, and one log file, that is LDF file, whenever you create a database. So those two files will obviously store in our disk storage. So one is our data file and other one is our log file. So this is our general scenario. So and you try to change some data using one update statement. Consider this particular transaction comes in and try to update some particular statement. So this is a transaction that is doing a DML operation. Think like that. Here I just mentioned update. It can be anything like insert, update, or delete, which is trying to modify your existing state of your database file. So this particular transaction comes in and opens up a session in within your SQL Server and start doing its whatever it is supposed to do. And while doing it, it has to fetch all the pages it has to modify into the memory. First, SQL Server will go and check all these particular pages that I need are already there in memory or not. So this particular transaction comes in and it needs certain pages to do the operation. So SQL Server will go ahead and check in memory that whether these particular pages are available in memory or not. If yes, if the pages are already in memory, then SQL Server do all the modifications. For example, here in this particular case, it is going to do an update operation. It will perform that update operation and write those changes into the log. So whatever the changes it has done, it will write all the changes into the log file. So if it updates, that means it has deleted the old record and inserted the new record. So write those changes into the log file. If it is a delete, record got deleted, write those changes into the log file. If it is the insert, new record got inserted right into that particular log file. This is called write ahead log mechanism that is there in SQL Server by default, unless you change. Otherwise, there is few things like delayed durability. Those things are different. But I'm talking about general SQL Server scenarios where SQL Server work like this. So update transaction comes up. It will go and verify all the required pages are there in memory or not. If yes, do the changes in memory. If no, go to the disk, go to the data file, fetch respective pages from data file into memory, and then do the operation. So if the pages are already there in memory, well and good. If the pages are not there in memory, go to the disk, fetch those particular pages, put it in memory, do the modification. So once the modifications are done, write all the changes into the log. This is called write ahead log mechanism. Once this all the changes are written into the log, then this particular transaction will get committed. So unless all the changes are written into the log, we cannot, a SQL Server cannot able to commit the transaction. And this is how the SQL Server works. So now if you see, we have changed the data and the transaction got committed, but our actual data, these particular changes were not written into the disk again. So when this particular data modifications will write back to the disk, unless a checkpoint process happens, or else the lazy writer process happens, or sometimes we do manually run these drop clean buffers. Till that time, all these pages will be there in memory. These pages which are modified in memory but not written into the disk are called as dirty pages. So these dirty pages will be there till the time the checkpoint process starts, or else the lazy writer process starts, or else something like drop clean buffers started. So this is how the SQL Server works. Friends, please put up S in chat window if this particular concept is clear for you. So what do you mean by dirty page is that the pages that got modified in the memory but were not committed back to the disk again. So those are called dirty pages. These dirty pages will be written into the disk once the checkpoint process starts. I hope this concept is clear. Please put up your response in chat window. If you have any further questions, please use Q&A panel to post your questions. Please use Q&A panel to post your questions. That will be very helpful. So let me. We understood that everything that is happening inside SQL Server will go into log first, right? So that's why it is very important to take the backup of your log file. That's where the log backup is very, very important, and we need to take the log backups very, very frequently. So this hope this thing is very clear, friends. So if you have any questions, then we'll take these questions at the end of the session, because we have a lot to cover and we have less time. So let me go back to demos and show you how SQL Server, how we can take backups and in SQL Server. And during these executions, a few more doubts will get cleared as we're going forward. So let me create our database first for our demo purpose. If at all this particular database exists, let me drop it and create it again. So I have created this particular database, and we are using this particular database and creating a schema. So right now we have created this particular database, a fresh database, and inside that particular database we are creating a table called table_full and inserting some couple of records into this particular table. So let me create this particular table. So our table is created. So if you see this particular thing called sys.tables inside this particular database, we have only one table inside this SQL m_backup database. So now we want to perform a full database backup of this particular database. How to take a database backup? This is how we'll take a database backup. Very simple syntax: backup database name to disk, and we'll mention where to store our backup file. This is the path. in which SQL Server stores the backup file. And with stats equal to 10 means after every 10% of the job done, SQL Server will show us the status, that 10% completed, 20% completed, like that. That's what this is useful. You can ignore this, but still it is there. So if you run this particular query and execute this, and our database backup is done. So if you go to this particular path, let me go to C, disk C, and go to this particular folder called SQL Server Backup and Restore. This is where our backup file is stored. So whenever you do take a database backup, that particular path needs SQL Server needs full control, or else that particular user account needs full control on this particular path, so that SQL Server can able to store your database backup file on the disk. Otherwise, you will get operating system error. So error number could be 5 or 3, but you'll get that operating system error. You need to give the full control to SQL Server so that you can able to store your files in this particular folder. So that's how you perform full database backup. So once you take the full database backup, so many changes are happening to your database. So one such change is that you are creating another table. Have created another table. As you consider, this particular database is very big and we cannot take database full backup every now and then. So we need to take a differential backup. So how to take a differential backup? So backup database name and to disk is equal to the path, and we just mention with differential. You just mention with differential keyword, then SQL Server will store SQL Server will take a differential backup of your database. If you execute this, you are going to take a differential backup of your database. So differential backup, in order to take a differential backup, we must take a full database backup. So that's what we had done earlier. The limitation is that, the requirement is that in order to take a differential backup, you need to take a full backup first. It's actually sensible, right? So differential backup contains the data since last full backup. That means you obviously should have a full backup. So if I execute this particular query, then you'll have a full database, differential database backup. This will contain all the changes since the last full backup. So if you go and see, I have taken the differential backup also. And after taking differential backup, I have created one more table and inserted few more records, and all these changes will be there in the log. It's obviously better to take a log backup also. So what is the syntax to take a log backup? Backup, instead of saying a database, we'll just say backup log database name, and rest everything is same, to disk path. So if I execute this particular query, our log database backup is also ready. So this is how simple to take a database backups of full database backup, differential backup, and log backups, etc. So we have one more beautiful option whenever you take a database backup. So with if you say with compression, so I'm just changing the name, and you can comma compression if you mention and execute this particular query, SQL Server will take a compressed backup, which will save a lot of disk space, but obviously it will use a lot of CPU cycles. But the benefit is that it will use less space in the disk. If you compare this particular one and this particular one, let me zoom in. If you see this one, if you see this one and this one, we have hell and heaven difference between these two. So whenever you use this keyword called with compression, you are able to store a lot of disk space. So here you're using close to 2 MB, here you're using only 436 KB. So if you use with compression, then you're going to save a lot of disk space. So that's the use of with compression. So friends, this is how you just take a database backup. So once you take database backup, it's very important to see those database backups are good or not. That means those backup files are corrupted or not. So that's where it's very important that whenever you take database backups and store it somewhere, it's always important to check that your database backups are good. If database backup files are corrupted, you need to take a new database backup and then store it in some other place, and you need to identify why those database backup files are corrupted. Otherwise, entire process you are doing is only to recover from the disaster. If your database backup files are also corrupted, then we are not able to get back from the disaster. That's where it's very important to verify your database backups also. So that we'll see in a bit time. So let me show you how to restore a database. So if you see this particular one, let me drop this particular database. Something happened, some disaster happened. We are not able to access our data, not able to access our database. So we need to rely on our database backups. So I've got to know that my audio is not clear. Please confirm in chat window that you are able to hear me properly or not. Please put up yes in chat window if you can able to hear me properly. Now it is good, right? It was breaking in between, but now I think it is fine, right? Okay, fine. Okay, understood. So let me come back from this one again. So whenever you take database backups, you have some file stored somewhere else, but only if you restore your database from the backup file, you have actual database in hand so that you can write all your T-SQL queries. So how to restore your database? So now if you want to restore your database, let me set up this particular scenario that we have our database was corrupted, so we cannot recover our database. So to replicate the scenario, I'm dropping our database, so we do not have database ready. So sorry. So let me drop the database. So our database is no more. So what we need to do now? So we need to, again it is breaking. So let me do one thing. Let me connect with the audio again. Give me a second. Hello everyone. Can you hear me now? Please put up S in chat window if you can able to hear me properly. Yes, now I think everyone is able to hear properly. Good. Fine. Okay, let me start again. So you need to restore your database, then only you will get working. Then only you will get a database which you can work with. So that's I have created a scenario that you have lost your database. Now you need to restore your database so that you can able to work with that. So if how to restore a database? So restore database name from disk, the path where your database backup file is there, and because with file is equal to 1, these things you can ignore as of now. But the point here is this one. So I'll tell why. What do you mean by recovery means? So let me execute this particular query so that our database is back. So let me show you. Before that, we do not have any database as with the name SQL backup. If you click on this, we do not have any name like SQL backup. If you restore your database from this particular file, our database will get restored, and now we have a brand new database called SQL backup. If you can see SQL backup. But now let me execute this particular query so that we can verify that our database is fine or not. If I execute this particular query, we can see only table full. So actually in our database, we have created table full, table diff, and table log, right? So we have created 3 files, but we do not have all the data in this particular database right now because we have just restored our last full backup. After that, we had done one more insert, and then we took a differential backup. After that, we had done one more, we have created one more table, and then we have taken a log backup. So that means what? We need to restore first full backup, then we need to append the differential backup to the full backup, then you need to append the log backup file to that full backup. So then only you can able to completely restore your database. So That's where it's very important to understand the sequence of operations we need to perform. So let us see, let us repeat this particular query again. So where if you say recovery means you are telling SQL Server to bring your database online. So that's where we need to mention SQL Server that whenever it is restoring from the server, let me drop this particular database again and show this thing again. Okay, fine. Let me drop this particular database and show this one. So whenever you are restoring your database, you need to first restore your full backup and mention no recovery, with no recovery. That means you're telling SQL Server that wait, don't bring my database online, I'm giving you one more file. So after that we need to restore our differential backup and with no recovery. So that means if that means that we are telling SQL Server, so wait, I'm giving you one more file. If I have to mention with no recovery here, so then you need to restore our log file as well. And finally, once the log is done, we are sure that we are getting back to our normal state, our database. So that's where we need to tell SQL Server that with recovery. So it's always best practice that whenever you start restore, you use no recovery first, because if you use with recovery and then you realize that you need to append one more file to your database, then it's not possible. You need to begin the operation from the beginning. So if you use with no recovery here also, then you just need to alter your database to set recovery, right? That's the best practice to use always with no recovery. So let me drop the database again. So just to confirm, okay, we have already dropped. So now if you see this particular query, we are restoring our database with no recovery from our database. This is, I'm restoring full backup now. Let me execute this. So and it is, if you go back to Object Explorer and if refresh, you can see it is still restoring because we have used this particular keyword called with no recovery. So now we need to append our differential backup file. So now if you need to append our log file, and if you go to our database access and refresh, if you see now it is showing SQLM backup and it's online now. So if you go and query this particular query again, where's this one, you have all three tables available. So this is how you need to perform backup and restore operations. So there are so many other options as well, that whenever you do this restore, you can encrypt your files and encrypt using certificate. And whenever you're restoring the database backup file, you need that certificate in order to get back your backed up file, in order to read your database. So these are the few other things that are there available in your SQL Server. So this is simple database backup and restore that anyone can do. I hope these things are clear. Please put up your response in chat window, whether yes or not. Fine. Okay, let us go into another example. Let us go into another example where we perform a partitioning now. So why do we need partitioning? So we need to perform. We learn what do you mean by partitioning and why do we need partitioning and how partitioning and backup together will help us improve things. So that's what we need to see now. So in order to create partition is a kind of entire different concept. I'm not going to deep dive into how to do partitioning, etc., and what is partitioning function schema, etc. But there is good webinar from our DPG core team member Vijay Reddy, which is already there in our YouTube channel. I'll request my colleague Rohit to put up that YouTube channel link there in the chat window, where you can go and see and learn more about SQL Server data partitioning. That was a very good webinar where you can refer. But here I'll just do things. I have already implemented this partitioning before this webinar started so that we can save time. So if you see, we already have 4 file groups in action other than the primary, and then I have created all these files, each file for one file group, and have already created these files. I have already created these files, and I have created this particular partitioning function where I'm going to divide my data based upon the year. So all the data in the year 2011 will go into one particular partition, and 13 will go into one partition, depending upon the range I have given here. Okay, the data will get divided depending upon the range I have given here. So you can learn more about partitioning there. So I think Rohit has already given the link there. Please save that and subscribe to the channel. So I have already created this particular partitioning function. You can see pf underscore sales order. After that, we need to assign this particular partition scheme with this partition function, and we need to assign for each partition where to store, in which file group data is to be stored. So this is what called as partition scheme. So I have already created this partition scheme. So this is there already. Okay, now I need to create one more table where I'm going to store the data. I think I have already created this. Let me drop this particular table and recreate this one again, because at least one for the table is an offline file group. So let me do one thing. Let me drop this partition scheme, partition mode, but not more tables. Okay, good. So I have already stored these files in this particular. So I've already created these files. They are there, and I have already created this particular table. I have. Yes, partition improves tables access. Like whenever you are touching recently created data, then it will improve your performance. So what I have done is I have created this particular table, and I have inserted the data into this order table from other table. Like I have just inserted some data which will go into partitions. So if I execute this particular query, I have 3 partitions, and in each partition I have this many rows available. So depending upon your search query, SQL Server will go into that particular partition and fetch the data. If you ask for select star from the table name, it has to touch entire table. Or else if you put up some where condition which satisfies only one partition, then SQL Server will go into that particular partition to fetch the data, which improves the performance, and few other things like locking, etc. So that's how it works. So your data is partitioned right now, and our order table have 3 partitions, and each partition have respective data. Now you can do this particular database backup where you are storing all these file groups into this particular file backup. So if you perform this particular operation, SQL Server, because it's not online. Okay, let me see what's happened. So database is already online. So I'll just change this database name here, like wherever there is this 2014, I'll just change this into 2012. Then we can create. So I had done this, and I'll add these file groups to the database, and successful. And if I add these files to our, these files are already exist. So let me sales, wherever there is a sales order, I'll just change this to sales. Okay, I'll just change this to sales. So then let me save all these. Let me execute so that the respective files will get created. So respect to invalid file group sales one specified. What happened? So we create this partitioning function, and if you see, we have our partitioning functions available, and we have this partition scheme, which is this. What happened to this file groups, PF sales, etc. Am I audible now? So actually, I was saying something. I just got the message that I'm not able to, people not able to hear me. Is this correct? Hello. Please put up your response in chat window whether you are able to hear me now. Please put up your response in chat window if you can able to hear me. Unable to hear me. So let me try something. There is some issue happening here. Can you hear me now properly? Please put up your response in chat window if you can able to hear me properly. I just removed my earphones, so I hope it works fine now. You're not able to hear me properly? Audio is breaking, audio is not clear. What's going on? I hope now it is clear. I just got the confirmation that now I'm able to hear, you're able to hear me properly. Okay. Okay. There seems to be some few issues with the headset, etc. So sometimes, you know what happens, these things will not work properly and you don't know what you had done, but it will work again properly. So we don't know what happened and how it was fixed. So I didn't do anything. I just removed this earphones and then inserted back again. Now it's working. Yes, that could be network issue. So we are running out of time, so I'll just explain. So what we are doing. So what I was planning to do was, so we can take backup by mentioning all the file groups here. Backup database name, file group, and respect to file group name. We have 4 file groups and 1 default file group. So I have mentioned all the file groups name, and we are going to take database backup by executing this particular query. So this will take backups. How this will help is that whenever you want to restore the database, you do not need to restore your entire database. So you just need to restore your file group which your users are currently accessing. So if you do that, if we execute this one, this is going to take time. Now we are already running out of time, so I'm not going to execute, but your script is ready with you. You can do this. I'll share these scripts after this class is done. So if you execute this particular script, this particular backup file will get stored in our this particular path, and you can able to restore using this kind of a queries only primary file group from this backup, only sales 1 file group from this particular backup, only sales 2 file group from this particular backup set. So this particular query is useful so that you can restore only the recent file group where your recent data resides. So you do not need to restore entire database. You just restore this particular file group, so your data is up and running of that particular partition. If you are if your queries are running against the data that is residing another partition, you will get an error. That particular point of time, you need to restore that particular file group also. But this kind of a restores are called as piecemeal restores. So where you are restoring only a piece of your database. I hope this particular concept is clear, at least. Please put up your response in chat window if this concept is clear. Yes. So and one more thing is that, so we take these database backups very frequently, right? We take so many database full backups, and we take so many differential backups. We take so many log backups. So what is the sequence in which you need to restore your database backups? So whenever you take database backup, all the information related to that particular backup information will get stored in MSDB database. So if you go to MSDB, if you go to MSDB database and you just run select star from backup set, right? So this particular system table will have all the backup sets related to each and every database. And we have another system table called select star from backup media family. Okay, so if you observe, both the table have a common column called media set. So if you join these two tables using media set, if you join on media set and you just take only the name of the database and the physical device name of the database, then you'll get each database and where that particular database file got stored. You got the path also, you got the database name also. So using using these two system tables, we can build up a procedure where if you give, you can build up a store procedure. You can write a store procedure where you just pass the database name, and SQL Server will give you the sequence of restore operations you need to perform. Consider this particular scenario where we have taken a database backup of SQL backup, right? So let's copy this, and I have already created a store procedure called I have created it in master database. And if you execute this one, execute backup script, and you just need to pass the database name. So now SQL Server will give you the sequence of restore operations unclosed. Okay, what happened? So SQL Server will give you the restore operations you need to perform. So we have seen earlier, right? We need to first restore our database full backup, and we need to restore our database differential backup, and we need to restore our transaction log backup. This is the sequence that in which we need to restore our databases. So if you go to master database, system databases, and if you execute, if you expand this one, we have the store procedure there, and if you click on modify, you will get the how we have written this particular store procedure. So if you go through all the steps, you can understand this script will get shared with you. So we have just used the backup set system table and backup media family system table that we have we have seen earlier, and using some dynamic SQL, we just applied some set operations so that you just pass the database name, and SQL Server will give you in which sequence you need to open your database files, in which series you need to restore your database files. So this script will be shared with you so that you can go and explore. I hope this technique is useful, that you just know where SQL Server will store backup information. One is backup set date table, other one is backup media family table. Just go and explore all the tables, all the columns, and apply necessary joins and necessary conditions so that you can get a logical conclusion that you just pass a database name, SQL Server will give you a series of restore operations you need to perform. I hope this particular concept is clear, and I think you find this store procedure is useful. Please put up your response in chat window if you find this kind of a store procedure is useful for you. Yes, good. So this is how you can able to take help of the system tables that are already available. So this script will be shared with you. So let me close this and come back to our final example where we need this one is very useful for the developers. So let me create a particular database where so this particular demo is a bit tricky one. When I was executing it before this class, it worked sometimes and it wasn't working sometimes. So hopefully this worked now as well. But this technique is very, very helpful whenever you have deleted your data accidentally. So let me create this particular tables. So I have created a database called truncate versus delete. So now I'm using that particular database and I'm creating two tables inside this particular database. One is delete test and other one is truncate test. So we have two tables ready. So I haven't inserted any data inside the table. I'm just taking a full database backup of our database. So backup database name, and I haven't mentioned anything like differential, etc. So that I'm taking a database full backup. So if you observe in this, if you restore this full backup, we'll have these two tables, and these two tables have do not have any data because we haven't inserted anything. Now let's go ahead and insert some 5 records into each of the table. So we have inserted some 5 records into both the tables. If you see, delete table we have some 5 records and truncate table we have some 5 records. Now this particular transaction started and we are deleting some 3 records from delete table, and we are truncating the truncate table. So if you execute this particular operation, something happened, and now you have the table. One table you have only 2 records, and other table you do not have any records. Your table got truncated. Consider this thing happened by mistake. Some of your developer did update your queries without where condition, or sometimes deleted your data without where condition. Sometimes by mistake truncated your table. So this is your scenario. Now you are in a situation, you have a full backup, but when you take a full backup, you do not have a data. Even if you restore your full database backup, you do not get any data, because at the time of your full backup, your tables don't have any data. Now, as we have discussed in the beginning slide, whenever your transaction started, all the transactions will commit into the log file first, then only the transaction will get committed, right? So let me correct myself. All the changes will return into the log file first, and then your database transaction will get committed. So all the changes will be there in your log file. Now if you see, if you execute this particular query, where if you execute this undocumented command like fn_db log, and you identified all the transactions that has delete and truncate name in it. So if we execute this particular one, there are two transactions. One is delete transaction and other is truncate transaction that were started just before. If you see 28th March 4/5, like just 1 minute back, we have this transaction started, and after this transaction started. You can see the difference in milliseconds. So these two transactions started. Now you just need to take down. So once you will realize that there is some mistake happened and you have deleted the data, you just need to execute this one and take down these two LSN numbers, current LSN, and save it in some kind of a place, like I am storing it in notepad. So this one is related to delete, and this one is related to truncate. So this one is related to delete and this one is related to truncate. So LSN is nothing but log sequence number. Whenever a record get inserted into a log file, that will get a number that is called log sequence number. Like you have a table with identity property, whenever you insert the data, the row number will get incremented, right? So like that, you have this log information. So now we need to take the log backup, because all the changes that was happened to that particular database will get written into the database log file, right? So I'm taking the log backup of our database. Now we need to restore our database, right? So I'm just restoring it as a different database for the demo purpose. So now we are restoring the database. So first we need to restore the database full backup with no recovery. So I have restored it, and it is there. If you go to Object Explorer, and you can see a new database, truncate versus delete copy, and it is still in restoring phase. Now I need to append log file to that. So now what I'm trying to use is, so the log sequence number that we have taken here is a hexadecimal number. We need to convert this hexadecimal number into a decimal number. So let me convert this hexadecimal number into a decimal number. So we need to do this for each and every hexadecimal section here. So we have a 368. And we have 1 means 1. So these are the decimal numbers of the hexadecimal number that we have got from SQL Server. So now what we need to do is, let's keep the first number as it is and make the second number as a 10-digit number by adding 7 leading zeros. And here make a 5-digit number by adding 4 zeros. Now we have a decimal number. This is just a conversion. You can learn offline that how to convert hexadecimal number into a decimal number. Now you just replace this one with the current decimal number we have got. So we have got the conversion number from hexadecimal to decimal number. Now we are restoring the log, and we are telling to SQL Server that, so you restore, and whenever you see the log sequence number like this, stop there. After that, don't restore the log. Okay, don't go and further commit all the transactions. Stop here. Stop restoring the log here, so that when we are telling SQL Server that we have identified where our transaction got deleted, and we are taking the database state in such a way back that before the delete started. So that's what I'm doing now. If that's where we are telling SQL Server that stop before mark at this particular log sequence number. So if I execute this one, and this got succeeded, and our database got successfully restored. If I refresh this one, our database is in running state. Now if you go ahead and use this particular database and select start from delete test, boom, you have all the 5 records ready. So earlier you have deleted your records, and we don't know how to get that back, but we know that all the changes that happened to your database will be logged in log file. We identified the log sequence number at which our delete transaction started, and then using that we have restored to certain point that our data is there. So I hope this demo is very useful and very helpful. So how many of you have already suffered by deleting the data in the production environment and you're not able to get that data? By using this backup and restore operation, you can able to survive in your job. Okay, that means sometimes if you truncate some table in your production environment, and then you're not able to survive in your job, right? So this is the technique which will help you to survive in your job. So let me drop this particular database, and we all know that we can get back the deletes and we cannot roll back the truncate, right? So this is a famous misconception that we can roll back the deletes, but we cannot roll back the truncated records. That's where this demo will be very helpful, where let us try this particular example where I'm trying to restore the database again. So I have restored the full database backup, and now we need to convert this truncate transaction, this one into our hexadecimal number. Let me do that. We have 376 comes up. So if you put 376 here, and then take this number, go to SQL Server, paste it here, and restore this, and the database got successfully restored. Now go ahead and check the truncate table. Boom, you have truncated data also back. So this is how the powerful SQL Server backup and restore is. So that even though you have deleted records, even though you have truncated the records, if you have full backup and log backup in place, and if you have identified the if you have identified this particular thing called when this particular transaction got deleted and respect to log sequence number, and you can restore in such a way that you can get back from deleted records and truncated records also. And remember that if your database is in simple recovery model, then you cannot able to recover your you cannot able to take log backup. At that particular scenario, you cannot able to get these things, right? So it's always better if you, otherwise you have a until unless you have a good reason, you always put your database in a full recovery model, unless you have other reason to put it simple or bulk locked. I hope this example is clear for you. Please put up your response in chat window if you have understood this particular example and you feel it is useful. Okay, so I will share the scripts also, and I will put up this recording in YouTube as well, where you can go and see this particular demo. Thank you for responses. So I'm done with the demos. I'll just hand it over to Rohit again. He has few slides to cover. After that, we'll come back to Q&A again. Over to you, Rohit.
Thanks a lot, Satya. Thanks a lot for that wonderful webinar. I think especially that last demo, everyone loved it. I will quickly share my screen. Great. So once again, thanks a lot, Satya, and thanks to everyone who has joined us today. So please post your questions while I show my slides. I have a couple of slides. It will just take a couple of minutes. Another important thing is that we have posted a small webinar pic of today on our LinkedIn and Facebook groups. So please do give your feedback. Please take some time out of your busy schedule to give the feedback. It will really help us and the speaker to improve for the next upcoming webinars. So, so if you have any questions beyond the webinar, do join our Facebook, LinkedIn groups, and we also have a Telegram group on mobile. You can join us and receive all the updates and answer questions or ask questions to the community. SQLMaestros learning solution that I was mentioning earlier. We had recently concluded the master classes with a phenomenal success. We had 8 hours of online training on various technologies like Power BI, machine learning, AI, SQL Server, and whatnot, by international experts, of course. We are coming up with the SQL Server Performance Tuning video course by Amit Bansal, which is a popular course. Now it is coming out in video format. You can watch it from anywhere in this world. You can subscribe right away. It has not been released yet. It will be releasing in a couple of months' time. But you can register right now to get the best discounts. The hands-on labs are a unique way of learning, which are self-paced and you can do it yourself. So since you're all DPG members, you can visit DataPlatformGeeks.com, and in the hands-on lab section, you can try out the latest demos, and some of the demos are absolutely free for our DPG members. We have the learning kit, which is again based on SQL Server Performance Tuning course by Amit Bansal. You can check that out as well. We have SQL Server Health Check. If you are ever in need of SQL Server Health Check, you can write to us. Our website is SQLMaestros.com, and you can write to us at contact@SQLMaestros.com. So Chetna will be putting down all these links, the feedback links, all the important links for you to browse in the chat window. Please do use them. The DPS 2019 precons, like I mentioned, we have announced 16 precons by international experts, the product makers from Microsoft as well. We have a couple of precon on Power BI by Peter Myers, who is very popular at DPS, by the way. And we have Shiva Harinath from Microsoft Redmond, who is part of the BI team there. We have the Azure, a couple of Azure precons as well by Denny Cherry, Joey D. Anthony on SQL Server. We have Amit Bansal will be doing his famous practical SQL Server performance troubleshooting precon. We have data science, AI, ML, and then of course Azure, cloud, etc. So do check them out. Chetna will be putting down the precon direct page link. That is, you can check all the demos that will be delivered on these pre-cons, etc., and decide whether you want to attend. Remember, the price will increase on April 1st. So if you're willing to attend, do book your seat immediately. You can check with your managers, or you can write to us that your company wants to participate. We will get back in touch with you and see how we can work things out. Another thing, you might not be sure as to what pre-con you want to select as of now, because there are 16 of them. You can just go ahead and book your pre-con seat and then decide later on which pre-con you want to attend. We are flexible with that as well. So do write to us, do visit dps10.com for more details. Data Platform Day, for people who are attending the webinar for the first time, who are new members of DPG. We also do in-person events, mostly in Microsoft offices and other offices like Mindtree, which is happening this Saturday in Chennai. It will be a half-day event. We have sessions on data science. We have SQL Server and Power BI as well. So if you are in Chennai this Saturday, you can join us at the Mindtree office for a half-day free learning event, of course. And then we have the Bangalore event on April 6th, full-day learning event, and the Hyderabad on April 20th. So you can visit dataplatformgeeks.com/events and you can register yourself. Chetna will be putting down the links again. So with that, even I'm done. Thanks a lot once again for all of your time. You can follow our Twitter handles at SQL Server Geeks for more updates. We have our YouTube channel where today's webinar will be recorded and be put up on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/SQL Server Geeks. Visit our official website, dataplatformgeeks.com, and do not forget to join as members in our Facebook and LinkedIn groups. With that, please do give your feedback as well. Chetna will be putting it down once again, the LinkedIn and Facebook URLs for you to give your feedback, informal feedback. Please do that. It is very important for us to know how this webinar went and how you all took it. So thanks a lot once again. So let's take the questions now. Satya, over to you. If there are any questions, you can.
Thank you, Rohit. Thank you for your time. Let me go to a Q&A panel. Just give me a second. So the first question will be by Nagaraju, difference between a log and differential backup. So differential backup contains the data since the last full backup, and log contains all the log records. For example, if you have taken the differential backup today and you have a full backup yesterday, then this differential backup will have 1 day of data. The log data will only have a log file. A log backup, if you take a log backup, this log file will only have log details since the last backup you have taken. So that's the difference between that. And lazy writer, what is the function? So lazy writer will actually runs periodically. It's a background process which will flush all the pages that were modified in memory but were not written into the disk. So this lazy writer operation will wake up after some time and then go and run and flush the data pages from memory to the disk. That's what lazy writer means. So what is data page? So data page is actually where your data stores. That's what data page means. Can you please explain about the types of checkpoints? So actually there is no types of checkpoints as such, but the actual checkpoint means that if you manually do the checkpoint, all the pages that got modified in memory will go back to the disk and be persisted into the disk. That's what checkpoint means. So what is the difference between log data and metadata? So can you please elaborate this particular question? Actually, metadata have some other meanings, like for example, you have a table and table column names, and respect to data type will also come into metadata, and few things like that. And log data means the changes you are doing to your data. That is what that will go into the log. That is called log data. Is ad hoc backups will break the chain of schedule type? without copy only option? Yes, Banu. So whenever you're taking a database backups, you're taking a database full backup, differential backups, and respect to log backups, etc. If someone comes in between and he takes a full backup, that means he's breaking your chain of your differential backups. So if you're unaware of that particular situations and you try to restore the full backup and try to append differential backups you have taken, then your chain was broken, so you are not able to do that. That's where you need to that ad hoc person who is taking the copy or database backup in between should take using this option called copy only, so that he won't break the series of differential backups that we have taken. Another question is that in middle of backup option, like 70% completed, some modification happened on database. So when will this modification backup or not? Yes, Banu. So whenever you restore your database, so what happened is that whenever the backup of your completes, that time when that contains all the data, when the backup operation completes, that particular backup file will have the data when at the time it completes. So that means if you restore, you'll get everything. So I hope that answers your question. How many types of partitions are there? So normally there are horizontal partitioning and vertical partitioning. So vertical partitioning will be done by normalization techniques, and horizontal partitioning will be done using table partitioning or index partitioning techniques generally people use. I'm okay with backup to URL with Azure data storage, but now we have Google VM. We don't have Azure storage. So failed in backup to URL option. For this Google Cloud VM, how can I backup to URL to Google storage? So as of now, I haven't explored Google storage, Krubakaran. So you can use Azure storage as you have already mentioned. We can take backups using to disk to URL or to tape also, but these days no one is using tapes. So you can store the data in disk also. You can store in Azure storage by providing the URL of your storage location. Before that, you need to authenticate those credentials, etc. So that till that I know, but I'm not sure about this Google storage. I haven't done that. While restoring file groups, need keep with no recovery. Yes, you can do that, Banu. If I am having a database which is not partitioned before, but can I do it now? Yes, as Satosh, you can do database partitioning for the existing tables as well. Please share all the scripts. Okay, we'll share. We'll actually put up all these resources in our Data Platform Geeks channel, so you can go ahead and watch them. How system come to know from when it needs to take a differential backup? So actually system will not come to know Masroor. We need to take database backups very frequently, or else we need to schedule by using SQL Server job agent that every 15 minutes take log. You need to script out that one in a job agent and schedule that job to run every 15 minutes, so that log backup you're taking every 15 minutes. Similarly for differential backup, script out that, create a job and run the job every 5 hours a day, or something like every 6 hours, or else once in a day, or like twice in a week, like whatever the way you feel is better for your databases. So like that you need to schedule, then only SQL Server will take backups. Otherwise system will not come to know by default when to take it. But you can get to know when was the last time your databases were backed up. What is the difference between restore database and files or file groups? So restore database mean by you're taking a backup or restoring the entire database. When you're restoring file group, you're restoring data in that only that particular file group. So for example, if you have a partition table and your table data was spread across into 4 or 5 file groups, and if you restore only file group, you will get to access only data in that particular file group. Other database file groups you can, or other data which is there in other file groups, you are not able to access. And next question. So when we start taking differential backup, the full backup is taken only once, and that is always used or at a regular interval. We have to take full backup in between differential backups. So actually, Narendra, we have to take these full backups frequently. Once in a month, kind of. If your database is very huge, it is in 50s and 60s of terabyte. If your database is reasonably sized, you take full database backup once in a week, etc. Otherwise, your differential database backup files also will grow in such a way that you are taking almost a full database backup. So it's better to take a full database backup instead of taking that big size of differential backup. So that's why you need to take a regular full backups. Advantages of piecemeal restore backup that we have already discussed with Ramurthy. So whenever you are touching only recent data, like last 6 months of data, last 1 year of data, it's always better to restore only that particular file group where your data resides, so your SQL Server is processing less amount of data. So that's where it's advantage of piecemeal restore. What will happen when we shrink the log file? Yes, if you shrink the log file, log will get truncated. Difference between buffer pool and memory, it's actually out of scope for this particular webinar, so we'll discuss in another one. I'm having a database which is not partitioned before. Yes, you can do it. What do you mean by tail backup? So tail log backup is that kind of a differential back. You are taking differential backup for a full database, right? It's kind of a differential backup for your log file. So if you take a tail log, once you have taken the log backup, the changes that happen to that particular log file will come into the tail backup. So that's where it is useful, and it is useful when you want to. There are a few certain other what you call this advantages as well. I'll try to record particular video for that one. Will be able to record the deleted records. Yes, we had done that using backup and restore Sharpen. In the last demo we have seen, we had done that. What's happening? How smart backup jobs knows that backup has to initiate? So we need to create a job and we need to schedule the job to run at that particular time, like every Sunday at 12 noon. That particular script will execute it. Whatever there in the script, that particular if it is a full backup script, then full backup will be taken. If it is a differential backup script, a differential backup will be taken. That's how it works, that job thing. Question is how system or job come to know that? Yeah, we have already answered this thing, Masroor. Does log file store operations performed on database and data file store stable? Actually, this question is not clear. Can you please ask? I can see some mobile number there. So those who are using that particular mobile number, please repeat your question again. I have a DB with 10 TB and take 2 hours for backup. Started at 12 a.m. Then we'll take the backup, have data when DM operations at 1:30 a.m. I didn't understand that question. And some anonymous attendee asked this question. Please repeat your question again. So there is this question like difference between backup and restore using command line interface and GUI. So there is no difference as such, but there is some advantage if you do it through T-SQL script. Like you can if you write T-SQL script, you can able to schedule the jobs, and that you can schedule the jobs to run at every Sunday, so that you do not need to manually do it. If you use graphical user interface, every Sunday you need to do it manually. If you use script, you can schedule it so that SQL Server will do it for you. I hope we have answered all the questions. Thank you all for the joining, and please put up your questions in your Facebook group, and please provide your feedback as well. That will help us improve. Thank you all.